She looked me straight in the eye and whispered like a villain in a movie. Your cousin offered me a bigger empire and a better ride. I'm leaving tonight for his Ocean View fortress. Your parents? They raised their glasses to us yesterday. I didn't speak. I didn't scream. I simply smiled, because revenge was already in motion. Let me take you back 48 hours, because that's where the blood started boiling in my veins. That's where the fireworks began. Her name is Brielle, and yeah, she used to be my wife. I say used to because after what she pulled, she's nothing more than a burned page in a book I'll never read again. It was a Thursday night, and I was working late at the warehouse. I run logistics for a chain of auto shops across the East Coast. Long nights, long drives, but everything I did for her. We've been married 6 years. 6 years of pretending, apparently. Around 11:42 p.m., I got a message from my cousin Aiden. Yeah, that cousin, the one with a flashy Instagram full of cigars, yachts, and girls with lip fillers pretending to like EDM. He wrote, "You should come to the party, man. Real heat out here. Brielle knows the spot." Wait, what? Brielle knows the spot? I played it cool. Replied with a thumbs up. Closed my laptop. And drove like hell. I wasn't invited. But I didn't need an invite. His house sits on a cliff above the water. Looks like a damn Bond villain lair. Neon lights, infinity pools, and silhouettes moving behind tinted glass. I parked down the street, walked in the dark, heart like a jackhammer. The bass hit my chest before I even saw the door. And then, through the glass, there she was. Brielle. In red. In his lap. Laughing like she'd just conquered Rome. His hand? On her thigh. Her hand? Around a champagne bottle like she owned the night. She wasn't drunk. She was queen. I watched her lean in and kiss his ear. My stomach turned, but I didn't throw up. I didn't break anything. I just stood there, watching, letting the moment tattoo itself into my memory. She looked through the window. Saw me. Did she panic? No. She smiled. Like I was the gardener showing up on a Sunday. Like I didn't matter. I walked away. No scene. No screaming. No fight. Just silence. Because some wars are better fought in the shadows. The next day, she came home like nothing happened. Hair tied up. Gym bag in hand. Said she was at yoga with Haley. I nodded. She lied. I cooked dinner anyway. That night, she climbed into bed like usual. Kissed my cheek like usual. Then turned over and scrolled her phone until 2 a.m. I laid there. Eyes open. I was done being her furniture. So the next morning, I went to my lawyer. Harper Stone. The best divorce attorney in the state. And my old college roommate. I didn't sign anything yet. I needed more. I needed proof. I needed pain. I went full ghost. I stopped reacting. Stopped asking where she was going. Let her think I was stupid. Let her swim deeper into the lie. That night, she told me she wanted to talk. We sat on the couch. No lights on. Just the glow of her expensive scented candles. She looked stunning, honestly. But behind the makeup and contour and push-up perfection, there was rot. She leaned in, whispered that line like she was delivering the final twist of a blockbuster. Your cousin offered me a bigger empire and a better ride. I'm leaving tonight for his Ocean View fortress. Your parents? They raised their glasses to us yesterday. I didn't speak. Didn't scream. I smiled. Because Aiden? He thinks he's the one playing me. What he doesn't know is that the house he just gifted her was purchased by my company last week under an LLC. And her name? It's not on a single document. And tomorrow? She'll wake up to nothing but broken glass and a freezing bedroom. This was just the beginning. The night she told me about Aiden's Ocean View fortress, she packed 2 designer suitcases and strutted out like she was in a perfume ad. She didn't look back. Didn't ask about the dog. Didn't even flinch when she saw the wedding photo on the console table. She didn't see the cameras I'd installed last month. You see, I started noticing small shifts weeks before. It's never just the lipstick on the collar or the random guy texting at midnight. It's colder. More silent. She stopped asking me how my day was. Stopped folding my laundry. Started going to spontaneous Pilates retreats. I let her go through her charade. The first time the alarm bells rang, it was because of the mirror. I walked into the bathroom one morning and saw something strange. On the edge of the sink sat a gold bracelet, one I didn't buy her. The initials weren't hers either. NH. When I asked about it, she laughed. Said it was Haley's. Then gave me that smirk. That, you're too stupid to know smirk. I didn't push it. But that was the moment I knew I was sleeping beside a stranger. Over the next week, I started collecting things. Not just evidence, but data. I backed up her texts. I mirrored her emails. Hired a PI named Derek, a quiet ex-cop who knew how to vanish behind hedges. He sent me photos every day. Aiden and Brielle on jet skis. Aiden and Brielle in a rooftop bar. Brielle getting into a Maserati wearing a white dress I bought for our anniversary. It burned. God, it burned. But I never confronted her, because I wanted the fall to hurt. She thought she won. That smug look when she whispered those words about my cousin, that smugness, it blinded her. She never once asked herself how Aiden suddenly had that mansion. She just climbed aboard like a spoiled heiress and claimed it as hers. The house wasn't his. It was mine. Well, not directly. I bought it through a holding company I set up 2 years ago. Planned to flip it. When I found out what was happening, I decided to gift wrap it in lies and hand it to them like a Trojan horse. By the time she walked into it with her Versace bag and victory smile, the utilities were already scheduled for disconnection. The water? Off. The heat? Gone. The security system? Set to lock her out at 3 a.m. sharp. But I wasn't done. I sent the footage of her betrayal, everything from my hidden camera to 3 places. Her mother, Linda, who always called me the boring husband. My lawyer. My own inbox, just so I could replay it when I felt weak. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in our now empty living room, looked at the couch where she once lay in my arms and swore she'd never lied to me. I felt like a fool with a plan. The next morning, I brewed coffee and waited. By 6:30 a.m., the first call came. It was Aiden. What the hell did you do to the house? I didn't answer. Hung up. Then the second call. Brielle. She was screaming. There's no water. The lights went out in the middle of my bath. I can't open the f***ing door. Asterisk asterisk. I waited a moment, then calmly replied. Maybe ask Haley for help. Or NH whoever that is. Then I hung up again. I felt something then. Not joy. Not relief. But peace. Like I'd finally turned the page. And yet, something told me she wasn't done. That woman never just leaves. She circles back like a storm. But this time, I'd be ready. It was quiet for about 2 days. I almost let myself believe that Brielle had given up, packed her bags again, and was off to seduce some new fool in a Lamborghini. But like I said, Brielle's the kind of storm that circles back. And when she does, she doesn't knock. On the 3rd night, just past 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. A FaceTime call. Her face filled the screen, wet hair, mascara smudged, wearing one of Aiden's oversized shirts like it was a badge of honor. I want to talk, she said, voice low, fake fragile. I didn't say anything. She waited. Then she dropped the bomb. Aiden kicked me out. He found the photos. You know, the ones of me and Nathan. Nathan. So NH had a name after all. And apparently she was multitasking betrayal like it was a full-time job. I leaned back, let the silence hang. You done, Brielle? I asked. She blinked, caught off guard. She was used to tears earning her sympathy, guilt giving her leverage. No, I'm not done. You've humiliated me. You sabotaged that house. That house was mine, I said calmly. You just squatted there. She exploded. You think this is over? I gave you 6 years. I could have married rich at 25. I settled for you because you were safe. There it was. The truth, finally uncloaked. I was her stability while she shopped for chaos. I hung up. The next day, she showed up at my office. I walked into the lobby after lunch, and there she was, tight white dress, high heels, sunglasses still on indoors. She looked like a magazine ad for bad decisions. People stared. My assistant Melanie froze, unsure whether to intervene. I motioned her away. Brielle walked up, leaned in, and said, I want half. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. You signed a prenup, remember? You were too busy picking flower arrangements to read it, but you signed it. She stepped back. I'll go to the press. Say you abused me. Say you tracked me. Say you poisoned my dog. Anything. I leaned in, whispered so only she could hear. You think you're playing chess. But sweetheart, I built the board. She slapped me. Hard. Right in front of the lobby camera. Perfect. Security escorted her out. I emailed the footage to Harper, my lawyer, that afternoon, just in case she tried to spin the story. That night, I received a call from Uncle Mitch, Aiden's father, the family patriarch. He said, we didn't know she was playing both of you. He's heartbroken. You still coming to Thanksgiving? I almost laughed. Depends who's carving the turkey, her or me. He didn't laugh. Just sighed. The next 24 hours were pure chaos. Brielle began posting cryptic Instagram stories. A black screen with text like, "People will betray you and smile while doing it. Imagine giving someone your youth, and they pay you back with cruelty." I didn't respond, didn't even watch them. But she wanted a reaction, and when she didn't get one, she escalated. She showed up at my parents' house, told my mom I was having an emotional breakdown, that I was dangerous, that she feared for her safety. My mom didn't buy it. She handed her a cup of chamomile tea and calmly said, "We saw the videos, dear. You should go." That was Brielle's final act, at least for that week. She disappeared from town, but I knew she wasn't gone. Someone like her always finds a new way in. She wasn't just after money anymore. She wanted to ruin me, but I wasn't afraid. Because the truth? I wanted her to try. I was no longer the safe guy, no longer the background husband in her spotlight. I had teeth now, and I'd bite back. Brielle wasn't just a liar, she was strategic, manipulative. The kind of woman who didn't just destroy relationships, she engineered the collapse. And yet, for all her plotting, she never understood one simple rule: never start a war with a man who's got nothing left to lose. A week after she vanished from town, I got a call from Detective Rivas. Sharp guy. I'd hired him once for a security consult at one of my warehouses. He wasn't calling as a friend. "Mr. Callahan," he said, "you might want to check your bank records." And just like that, it began. Turns out, while Brielle was pretending to be heartbroken online and hunting for sympathy with her crocodile tears, she was also trying to pull off her final heist: identity theft. She'd opened a line of credit under my business name and attempted to drain a joint account that had been inactive for months. She tried to play me like a fool, but I had already set the net. I had changed every password, flagged every account, and more importantly, I had let Harper, the divorce lawyer, build a paper trail so thick no judge could ignore it. Every fake charge, every transfer, every forged email, logged, timestamped, secured. When the bank called to confirm a $17,000 furniture order under Mrs. Callahan, I told them to approve it. Then I shipped the order straight to my lawyer's office. Evidence. Later that evening, I walked into my living room and stared at her old wedding dress hanging in the closet. I'd never moved it, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder of everything fake. White satin hiding red lies. I got a message from Melanie, my assistant. She'd received a call from someone asking if my business was under federal investigation. Brielle. Spreading rumors now. She wanted to poison the soil I grew from. So I leaned in. The next morning, I made a public LinkedIn post. Professional. Polished. Subtle. It read, "In times of betrayal and chaos, the best revenge is stability. Proud of the team for pushing through a challenging quarter. Loyalty still matters." I included a photo of my staff. Smiling. Confident. Brielle wouldn't admit it, but she was watching. She was always watching. Then came the email. Subject line: "Let's not destroy each other." Classic Brielle. Once the games start turning against her, she tries to play innocent. She wrote, "I know we've both made mistakes. I know I hurt you. But dragging this into court won't help either of us. Let's just end this quietly. I'll walk away if you help me with a fresh start." A fresh start. She meant cash. She meant silence. So I replied, "Come to the warehouse at 3 p.m. We'll talk." I wasn't going to pay her, but I was going to finish this. She showed up wearing all black. Dramatic. Sunglasses indoors again. She walked in like she owned the place. "What is this?" she asked. "I wanted you to see what loyalty builds," I said, waving toward the open floor where my team was packing shipments. "And what betrayal costs." I handed her a manila folder. Inside were documents, every fraudulent charge, every lie, every audio clip, and camera still. Her face turned pale. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "I already did," I replied. "This goes to the DA if you even sneeze in my direction again." She slapped the folder shut and walked toward the exit. Before leaving, she turned to me and said, "You think you won, huh?" I smiled. "I didn't have to win, Brielle. I just had to make sure you lost." She vanished again after that. But something told me this story wasn't over. She was the kind of ghost that didn't haunt. You invited her back the moment you forgot the pain. And I wasn't about to forget. I thought I'd seen the worst of Brielle. I was wrong. 2 weeks passed. No texts. No calls. No new attempts at fraud. Just blissful silence. I slept better. Ate better. Even laughed again. But peace, I learned, is just a pause between attacks. It started on a Saturday night. I was at a bar with Jared, my oldest friend since high school. We were catching up, joking about old times, and for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about her. Until he said something that made the world freeze. So, Aiden's out of town, huh? Surprised he trusted Brielle alone with your uncle at the lake house. I blinked. What? Jared took a sip of his beer. Saw her on his story 2 days ago. Said, family retreat. Brielle was in the background by the pool. Which uncle? Mitch. And just like that, it clicked. Uncle Mitch. The one who called to comfort me, who asked about Thanksgiving. The same man who'd told me he didn't know what Brielle had done. It wasn't just Aiden. She was circling through the whole family. I excused myself from the table, stepped outside, and pulled up Instagram. Aiden's account had no new posts. But Mitch's? Private. I requested access from a burner account I'd created weeks ago to monitor her. 10 minutes later, approved. And there it was. A blurry video of a sunset, captioned, Family First. Zoom in. Freeze. Rewatch. Brielle. In a bikini. Wrapped in a towel. Leaning into Mitch's arm, whispering something into his ear like she was born for manipulation. This wasn't betrayal anymore. This was a sickness. The rage didn't come fast. It came slow, cold, like venom spreading from the chest. What the hell did she want? Power? Money? Or just to see how far she could go before someone put her in her place? I drove straight to my parents' house. They deserved to know. But I didn't expect what came next. As I explained everything, the accounts, the fraud, the betrayal, my father's face didn't register shock. It registered guilt. My mother looked down at the floor. You should sit, she said quietly. And that's when the truth dropped like a guillotine. They knew. They'd known about Brielle and Aiden for months before I did. Mitch had told them. They thought it was just a mistake, a fling. They believed she'd return to the marriage if they didn't interfere. But you toasted us the night she left, I said through gritted teeth. She told me. You raised your glasses while she walked out the door. My father didn't look up. We were trying to avoid choosing sides. Choosing sides. That's when I realized I had no one left. My family was a rotted tree. She didn't just betray me. She infected everything. I left without another word. That night, I sat on the floor of my empty house, surrounded by silence. I stared at the wall until the sun started to rise, trying to make sense of how a woman like Brielle could dismantle not just a marriage, but a lineage. And yet, I didn't cry. Because I'd crossed the threshold where grief turns into focus. This wasn't about healing anymore. This was about ending it clean, final, undeniable. I wasn't just going to escape her. I was going to erase her. From my name. From my finances. From my story. Next step, court. But not before I set one last trap. The kind she'd never see coming. I spent the next 5 days in complete silence. Not because I was broken. Because I was building. The world Brielle thought she ruled was built on lies. Mine was now built on evidence. On facts. On truth. And when you stack truth high enough, it crushes fiction like glass under boot. I met Harper at his office that Monday. He had a fresh folder on his desk labeled Operation Erase. Inside were pages of everything we'd collected. Bank fraud, identity theft, defamation, witness statements, including one from Jared and one from my own mother, who finally admitted Brielle told her she never loved me, just as access. We didn't go to court quietly. I wanted it public. I wanted her stripped of every illusion she ever sold. We filed for divorce with cause and detached criminal charges. Harper looked me in the eye and said, She's going to fight. She'll cry. She'll lie. She'll fake injuries. She'll probably even try to countersue. I nodded. I'm ready. The court date was set for Thursday. When the day came, I walked in wearing the only suit I'd saved from our wedding, symbolic, tailored, and sharp enough to cut through her circus act. She arrived 20 minutes late. Leather jacket. Red lipstick. No wedding ring. She brought Nathan. The same NH from the bracelet. He didn't sit next to her. He sat behind her. Like a lapdog, unsure of where he stood. The judge looked up from the documents and said, Mrs. Callahan, you're being accused of financial fraud, breach of prenuptial agreement, defamation, and marital misconduct. She smirked. I was emotionally manipulated for years. That man is a narcissist. He tracked me, controlled me, turned everyone against me. She pulled out a tissue, dabbed the corner of her eye. But I endured it, because I believed in marriage. Harper stood. Your Honor, we'd like to submit Exhibit 12. He played the footage. Security cam. The warehouse. Her telling me she wanted half, threatening to lie to the press. Then, her slapping me in public. The judge raised an eyebrow. So, emotional manipulation includes physical assault? She fumbled. That was taken out of context. We submitted more emails, bank documents, her messages to Nathan laughing about milking the idiot for one last gift. Brielle started shaking. Not from fear. From rage. This is character assassination, she screamed. You can't use private conversations. The judge leaned forward. You made those statements on a company device to a third party about a financial scheme. That's not private. That's a paper trail. For the first time since this war began, I saw it. Panic. Her world wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing. She stood up. I demand this be sealed. This is humiliating. The judge said calmly, then perhaps you should have behaved with more integrity, Mrs. Callahan. The ruling took less than 10 minutes. Divorce, granted. Assets, untouched. Her claims, dismissed. Criminal charges, sent to the DA for review. When it ended, she stormed past me in the hallway. You smug little. I stopped her. You looked me in the eye and whispered you were leaving for a bigger empire. I stepped closer. Turns out, empires crumble fast when they're built by liars. She spat at the floor and stormed off. Nathan didn't follow her. He stood by the exit, looking like a man who just realized he was the next in line to be destroyed. I didn't look back. I walked out of that courthouse lighter than I'd felt in years. But I wasn't done yet. Not until every remnant of her existence was wiped from my life like dust on glass. And there was still one chapter left. Court gave me legal freedom, but not peace. Because peace doesn't come from papers. It comes from cleansing the poison they left behind. Brielle was out of my name, my accounts, and my home. But she still lingered, in my furniture, in my playlist, in the damn smell of her vanilla candles that refused to fade. She was a ghost in silk. So I started the purge. I took a full week off work. Not to rest, but to erase. Everything she ever touched, I removed. The couch where she used to fake affection? Donated. The sheet she rolled around on while I worked late? Burned in a fire pit in the backyard. The wedding photo? Smashed. Frame and all. The mirror in the hallway where she practiced her fake smiles? Gone. It was more than just cathartic. It was war. I took her name out of my emergency contacts. I changed the lock codes again. I gave the dog to my sister because even he seemed depressed when she was around. I deleted every photo of us. Even the ones where I looked happy, because now I knew that man was a fool. Midway through the week, Harper called. The DA's office opened the case. They're officially investigating the fraud claims. She might face charges. I should have felt vindicated. But what I felt was tired. Exhausted from years of pretending. From carrying a marriage that was never real. That night, I drove to the beach. The same place I took her on our second date. We laughed then. She told me I was the first man who made her feel safe. In hindsight, I should have known that wasn't a compliment. She wasn't looking for love. She was looking for a shelter to rob. I watched the waves crash and let the cold wind cut into me. Grief is strange. It comes in moments, not days. And at that moment, I grieved the version of me who believed in her. Who believed in us. The next day, I started building again. Not a relationship. A life. I bought new furniture. Minimalist. Clean. I painted the walls a darker shade of blue. Something cool, calm, unlike anything she would have approved of. I got back in touch with people she'd isolated me from. Friends she called negative just because they saw through her. I rejoined my old boxing gym. Trained 3 days a week. Let my fists speak for the pain I couldn't. That Friday, Jared dropped by with beers. We sat on the new porch furniture. He looked around and said, "It's weird. This place finally feels like yours." I nodded. "Because it is," I said. And then he asked the question I knew was coming. "You think you'll ever trust someone again?" I didn't answer right away. "I don't know," I said. "I think I need to trust me first." The next morning, I found a letter in the mailbox. No name. No return address. Inside was a small white envelope. A flash drive. I plugged it into my laptop and watched. Footage. From inside Mitch's lake house. Brielle. Talking to someone off camera. I never loved him. He was just a safe bet. But you? You were fire. Passion. You weren't boring. And I needed out. Then laughter. Cruel. Cold. A text appeared on my phone seconds later. Unknown number. You deserve to know the whole truth. Thought you should have this. N. Nathan. Even her own lover turned on her. Poetic. I copied the file. Filed it away. Not for revenge. For remembrance. Because sometimes you don't need to destroy someone. You just need to let them destroy themselves. and document the fall. It's strange how healing doesn't come with thunder. It comes in the quiet. It had been almost 3 months since the court date. Brielle had disappeared from public view. Her social media accounts were gone. Mutual friends said she was traveling. Some claimed she checked into a wellness retreat in Arizona. Others whispered she moved in with a man twice her age. I didn't care. Her life was no longer my business. She was no longer my burden. But closure doesn't always arrive neatly wrapped. Sometimes, it forces its way through the door when you least expect it. It happened on a rainy Wednesday. I had just come home from work, soaked from a downpour that caught me off guard. As I toweled off and made coffee, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find her. Brielle. No makeup. No designer coat. No smirk. Just rain in her hair and desperation in her eyes. Please, she whispered. Just 5 minutes. I should have slammed the door. Instead, I stepped aside. She sat at the kitchen table like a ghost in familiar flesh. She didn't look me in the eye, just stared at the cup of coffee I placed in front of her like it might dissolve her. I lost everything, she said finally. Good. Aiden hates me. Mitch cut me off. Nathan turned out to be broke. My family won't even answer my calls. I said nothing. She looked up then, and the fire was gone. That spark of manipulation, of dominance, of control, it had flickered out. I wasn't always like this, she muttered. But when I met you, you were safe. You gave me everything. And you chose power over love, I cut in. And now you have neither. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Tears welled up, but I didn't move. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. You came here for what? I asked. She reached into her bag and slid something across the table. A photo. Us. From years ago. Before the lies. Before the betrayal. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I want anything. I needed you to know that somewhere in there, I did love you. Maybe not the way you deserved. But it was real, once. For a long moment, I stared at the photo. Then I pushed it back to her. I don't need it, I said. She nodded slowly, stood up, and walked out the door. No fight. No last word. Just gone. I never saw her again. In the months that followed, I kept moving forward. I expanded my business. I started mentoring young entrepreneurs, guys like me, who needed someone to tell them that trusting the wrong woman isn't the end. It's a beginning. And eventually, I met someone new. Not flashy. Not manipulative. Just real. She didn't care about power. She cared about presence. And one night, sitting by the fireplace with her head on my shoulder, she asked, "What's the worst thing anyone ever said to you?" I smiled, almost fondly, and replied, "Your cousin offered me a bigger empire and a better ride." She laughed. Then she looked up and said, "And what did you do?" I smiled, I said, because revenge was already in motion. Final reflection. If you're reading this and you're where I was, blindsided, heartbroken, humiliated, listen closely. She's not your ruin. She's your reveal. And once the mask comes off, you'll see clearly. You'll heal. You'll rebuild. And one day, like me, you'll be sitting somewhere warm, smiling at the memory of her. And realizing it no longer hurts. Because the worst thing she ever did was free you.